The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Understanding and Building Credit webinar. My name is Taylor. I'm on the HC marketing team. I just have a few announcements here before I hand it over to our guest speaker for today. Please just take a moment to become familiar with GoToWebinar. Go ahead and locate the handout section. We do have a handout for you today. It's from CHA's Workforce Opportunity Resource Center. They do have a hiring event coming up Wednesday, May 22nd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Charles Hayes Center, otherwise known as the FIC. So if you're interested in attending, go ahead and download that flyer. You can scan the QR code, or there is a registration link for you as well. Please go ahead and locate the questions box. We will have Q&A today at the end of the session. So if you do think of any questions you want to ask our speaker, please go ahead and submit those directly in that questions box. We'll try to answer as many as we can at the end during the Q&A portion. If you do have a question regarding your CHA account, unfortunately we can't access your account during the webinar today. Please reach out to us directly so we can assist you. You can give us a call at 312-935-2600 or email us at hcv@thecha.org. If you're a property owner, you can also connect with our owner services team, who will be happy to help you. They can be reached at ownerinfo@thecha.org. And please make sure when you reach out that you do have your vendor or voucher number handy so they can pull up your account and assist you. All right, that's it for announcements. So our speaker for today, Dwayne, otherwise known as Alexis Samuels, CEO of FinLitX Global Corporation. He comes to us with 35 years experience in global economics and financial literacy. Dwayne is also president of Brain Game Learning Systems and Prosperity Nation, a nonprofit company dedicated to empowering underserved communities with financial literacy. Recently, Dwayne was also appointed to the advisory panel of Bank of America, which is the second largest bank in the U.S., to advocate on behalf of consumers. Welcome, Mr. Samuels. Thank you for joining us. I'll go ahead and hand it over to you now.
Thank you so much, Taylor. It's a real privilege and honor to be here with the HCV participants and property owners webinar. It's a privilege to be able to encourage and empower our audience today with the importance of maintaining and building a high credit score. So important. Well, our presentation today is entitled Understanding and Building Credit. The road to prosperity is paved with a high credit score. How is that the case? Why is that the case? Well, as we go through our presentation today, there's something I want you to think about. And we'll come back to this question, this scenario, toward the end of our presentation. Choose for yourself. If you have a choice, if I gave you $1 million and a 350 credit score, or if you had an 850 credit score and $1, which would you choose? Now, you have to live with the consequences of the decision that you make. Can't change. But think about that question as we move through our presentation today, and we're going to come back to it a little bit later on. So once again, our theme is understanding and building credit. The road to prosperity is paved with a high credit score. How? Let's begin our seminar today. Let's go to a very basic and fundamental question. First of all, what is a credit score? Well, simply, the credit scoring system is designed to evaluate credit risk. So I think it's important to understand the background on everything we do. We're all about education here. So where did credit scores, the current credit system of evaluating risk come from? It started in 1956 with an engineer named Bill Fair and a mathematician named Earl Isaac, who founded a company entitled Fair, Isaac and Company. Now it's known as FICO. And they introduced this first credit scoring system using statistical models to evaluate credit risk. Now, those are all big words. It might even sound confusing. But essentially what it boils down to is if someone gives you credit, extends a loan to you, they want to know how risky that loan will be. What's your ability to pay it back? And also looking historically at your pattern of repaying on loans that have been issued to you. Do you pay your bills on time, essentially? It's always a matter of leveling and leveraging risk. And so the FICO system of credit scoring, assigning a score to each consumer, helps lenders, creditors assess the risk. Well, credit scores first were introduced to businesses so that businesses could determine whether they can extend credit to the next business. And that continues down on through the time today. Though when consumers became the focus of the credit score system, then what are called credit bureaus were established. And there are three main credit bureaus today. There are others as well, but the three main ones that most of us are familiar with is Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Now, first fact, these credit bureaus are not government agencies. They're private companies. Good to keep that in mind. You use the word bureau, and sometimes the first thing that comes to mind is a government agency. No, they're private companies, for-profit companies. And they have designed algorithms in order to determine what your credit risk is on a personal level. And creditors, if you open up an account with a creditor, whether it be a retail account or a credit card, an auto loan or a mortgage loan, every month those creditors will notify and update, transmit to Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian your pattern of paying. Did you pay on time? Were you late? How much do you owe? How long have you had a credit debtor relationship with these agencies? And it's reported every month. And then as a result of that, they're able to create a score. And that score identifies your responsibility, how responsible you are in paying your bills and capable of completing your obligations. So that is why credit scores are very important. And we're going to talk about that quite extensively as we move through our presentation today. Now, we're going to talk about what the credit score ranges are. And as we do so, you see that image in the back of our presentation today of the target and the arrow that hits that target right in the center. We want each of you to think about hitting your target. What is your target credit score? We're going to be filled with affirmations today and offer some clues and some suggestions as to how to hit that credit score. I'm sure it's going to be the highest one that you see displayed. And that's what we want to begin with. Let's move into this very important topic with the right focus. Our goal is to be able to manage our credit and reach and attain the highest credit score. Now, why do credit scores matter? The first reason it matters so much is because interest rates increase the lower your credit score. So if you have a very low credit score, you're going to pay more for that credit than someone who pays or has a higher credit score. And here's an illustration. We all want to be homeowners, right? So the average house value in the United States is about $400,000, slightly more, slightly less, about $400,000. And based upon your credit score, they're going to, if you want a mortgage loan to be able to purchase that house, um, they're going to determine what your interest rate is that the lender wants to offer you. So if you have a very low credit score, you see that interest rate at the far right, you're going to get a high interest rate. Our illustration here says 7.75%. That's slightly higher than the average interest rate that's in the markets today. If you have a high credit score, look at that interest rate on the left. You'll see that's 5%. That's about average consumer uh, interest rate for someone with a high credit score. But let's dig a little deeper. What do we see? What we see is those ones with a higher credit score gets the lowest monthly mortgage payment. So in this case, it's about $2,000 a month to purchase a $400,000 house. On the far side of that, if you have a low credit score, you're going to end up paying a whole lot more for that monthly mortgage payment to purchase that house, upwards of $3,100 and more. And this is just principal and interest. It doesn't include property taxes or insurance and other maintenance costs. So do we understand the importance of having the highest possible credit score? Because that alone can block you from the importance of owning property, real estate, and there's so much connected to owning real estate. Uh, our homes are often the single biggest asset that we will ever own or ever attain. And owning real estate is a wonderful way to create legacy, financial legacy, that can be passed along to our descendants, generation to generation. So this matter of a credit score is so critically important and speaks directly to it. But then there are other important reasons why a credit score matters. Let's take a look at our next slide. Credit scores also matter because it may determine where you can work. Can you believe that? Employers sometimes will actually pull your credit to determine how responsible you are financially, particularly if you are in the financial world, such as working for a bank as a teller or some other aspect of um, the finance world. Well, they want to know how responsible you are and whether or not you're eligible for this job based upon your credit score. We talked about buying a house, even renting a room or an apartment. Landlords will want to pull your credit to determine whether or not you're responsible and have the means to pay the rent on a monthly basis. Then, what about buying a car, applying for and obtaining a credit card, education funding, even healthcare? Very often, as you apply for private health insurance policies, they may take a look at your credit score, your profile, in order to determine whether you qualify the best rates. What's so interesting is those who have higher credit scores and are considered financially illiterate oftentimes are able to obtain socioeconomic um, privileges and socioeconomic values much easier and at a much lower cost than those ones who are considered financially illiterate or have a very, very low credit score. We're going to talk about the social impact of credit scores a little bit later on as well. Would you believe also your credit score may determine whether you have access to quality food that's distributed within your neighborhood? There's a connection. There's a connection there. And so we're going to talk about that also as we move forward. Those with higher credit scores earn more money, live in pricier neighborhoods, drive a nicer car, have a better education, better health, and even can eat healthier food. So we're going to talk about that as we move through our presentation. Let's go to our next slide. Who's in your credit score circle? And that's an interesting question. You might ask, well, what's a credit score circle? Well, show me your friends, and I'll show you who you are. Have you ever heard that expression before? If you associate with 9 millionaires, you'll become the 10th. The opposite is also true. If you associate with 9 people who are not improving in their lives, have no goals of home ownership or improving financially, then their negative energy as it relates to building up your financial profile can sap you of your ability and focus to achieve your goals. So that's what we want you to think about. See these faces on our screen? Substitute some of these faces with some of your family members or your close associates, your friends, those who you hang out with, as it were. What are they doing for you? Are they building you up so that you can achieve your financial goals and even a higher credit score? Or are they kind of like holding you back a little bit? When you're out with them, what example do you see? Do you know that person who likes to shop but doesn't ever have any money? They're quick to borrow but very slow to pay back. Well, if your credit score circle, fill in the pictures, are filled with those that have that nature, that have that practice, then I think that's something we should think about. I'm not saying get rid of all your friends, but be very careful as to which influences your goal attainment. Regardless of your circumstances, you can build a high credit score and achieve your goals. The average person can go from a 500 credit score to as high as a 620 in less than a year. When you build and have a focus and understand that the road to prosperity is paved with a high credit score. So we're going to continue talking through this and looking at examples and making this really individual so that we can really get a lot of value out of our conference today and really be on track, going forward. So going into our next slide, did you know that there is something called the Community Credit Score Index? There's so much data in the world today that there is information that can help us to understand what's happening within our immediate world as it relates to credit scores. You can actually look into and see what your neighbor's credit score is. I'm not saying we're going to violate any privacy issues here or anything like that, but there's so much data out there that helps us to understand that based upon your very zip code, the government understands, surveys and studies have been taken to tell us what the average credit score is down to the zip code. And that's where we begin to see the socioeconomics of it all, because there are specific indicators relating to the neighborhoods that we live in that is all tied to our credit score. So let's look into this a little bit deeper. So we provided you an example of, since we're now talking to our friends in Chicago, a couple of popular neighborhoods and zip codes in Chicago. This information is provided to us through the benefit and good graces of the Hope Foundation. So we want to give them a little mention for the data that we're about to present to you. John Hope and the Hope Foundation. Well, if you look at this chart, you'll notice that we're comparing two different neighborhoods. We're comparing West Garfield Park and its zip code to Lincoln Park. Now, these neighborhoods are, relatively speaking, near each other. They're not that far away. But did you notice that in the West Garfield Park zip code 60624, the average credit score is 597. Yet in Lincoln Park, I think it's maybe 15, 20 minutes away, the average credit score is 739. That's a huge difference. Now you might say, oh, but it's a different neighborhood. Of course, the houses are more expensive because you can look at the medium home value. There's a huge difference from $188,100 up to $682,000 plus. Huge difference. But associated with those different values and even different medium household incomes, which is strikingly different, there are socioeconomic issues that go along with that. You'll also see from this chart that there's more crime in locations where there is a lower zip code. There's a higher high school dropout rate in those neighborhoods with a lower credit score. But then the one that really gets me of these statistics and the connection to credit score is mortality. Mortality. Would you believe that based on your credit score, it's predicted that you can either live longer or die earlier? Look at this example, West Garfield Park. The life expectancy is 68 years old with a lower credit score of 597. But in Lincoln Park, it's 81 years. 81 years. Now, of course, there are socioeconomic and environmental differences, and they factor in different causes that are indicative to these individual neighborhoods. Well, these are causes that are reality. So as you think about the importance of a credit score, think about how it's really impacting you and your family, your children, and your future. Why it's so important to strive for a higher credit score and follow through. Now, I will say that I'm sure there are individuals in Lincoln Park that have a low credit score. And there are individuals in West Garfield Park that have a high credit score. But as an average and as a whole, these are the realities in which we're dealing with. And so another important reason why we have to build and continue to stay on track to achieving a high credit score based upon the goals that we said. We'll talk about goals in just a moment. Let's move along to the next slide. So building a high credit score starts with a self-examination. We all look in the mirror every single day. And if we see things that we like, we smile. But you might also see things that need some improvement. And so we'll pull out the can of this or the jar of that. And we'll start rubbing and doing whatever we need to do in order to improve our appearance. We take action. Well, do we do that also? Can we do that with respect to our credit scores? Every day, let's take a careful look as though we're looking through a credit score mirror. What do we see? Do we identify things that we've done that's positive and impacting our credit score to boost it up? Or are we thinking about, as we look through that credit score mirror, things that we've done or are planning to do that's going to bring our credit score down? It's a very important self-analysis because many of us, we kind of fall into a rut, as it were. Very much like that New Year's resolution. Come early January, we're all fired up and we want to get in the gym, we want to lose that weight, we want to improve our health, we want to stop eating junk food, whatever it might be. But 3 weeks in to the month, that gym membership didn't see us. We didn't show up that day. or 2 or 3 months down the road, we're barely in the gym anymore. And then we begin to fall back on our resolution, our goals to achieve. Well, credit scores. It's so important that we develop an action plan. An action plan is so important to being able to know what our next course is. And it's all about having a goal, budgeting and disciplining, focusing on our dreams. Once we focus regularly on our dreams, then we find that we're able to achieve them and it becomes a part of who we are. And we're really talking about a science here. It's called neuroscience and neuroplasticity. We focus in our education on behavioral modification. And what that basically means is, well, it used to be thought that once you got to about the age of 5, born in your first 5 years, pretty much everything that's going on inside your brain is fixed. All the pathways, the neurons, the synapse, they've connected, and your capacity to learn and to renew yourself to become something new kind of stops at that age. But no, science recent decades has proven that with neuroplasticity, we can continue to learn and continue to be renewed, renew our minds, brain remapping, it's often called, become a new person, get rid of the bad habits and replace them with new ones, and actually desire and enjoy and like what we're becoming. So included in that plan, that action plan, you want to make it rewarding for yourself. And we'll talk about some ways in which you can do that. Focus on your dreams. Take a picture of that new home. Take a picture of that new job. Take a picture of that new educational diploma or certificate, whatever it might be, and put it on the refrigerator, put it in your car, carry it in your wallet, your purse. Bring it out every time you have a decision to make regarding your finances. Remember why you're deciding what you're doing, why you're holding back, and why you're making the decisions that you're making, why you're sacrificing. You're giving up something in order for you to be able to achieve this particular goal. It might be that you want to give up, that fast food, on the way home, that stop, whatever that might be. You might not want to buy that luxury item right now. It's not going to appreciate for you, whatever it might be, whatever sacrifice. And we're not saying you can't have fast food, you can't live your life, etc. But continue to consider what your goals are, and by doing so, you'll be able to achieve them. And it's interesting to note that when it comes to this matter of developing the right values, it's not necessarily a matter of only the wealthy people can achieve these kinds of dreams, a high credit score. No. There are lots of folks out there that live within a very small and tight budget, but they have a high credit score because of it. Then you have some who have a lot of funds, a lot of money to go around, but they don't spend it on the right things. And as a result, they end up with a low credit score. I'll ask you this question. Tell me the similarity or what do each of these people have in common? I'll start with Tony Braxton, Willie Nelson, Michael Vick, Cyndi Lauper, Walt Disney, Stan Lee, the creator of Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk, even Dave Ramsey, a financial analyst, very well known around the country, and Michael Jackson. What do they all have in common? Pause. It's a rhetorical question. The answer is each of the people that I just mentioned, including Donald Trump, have filed bankruptcy. Each of them have filed bankruptcy. What's that an indicator of? It's an indicator of possibly a low credit score. Some lack in terms of financial literacy. Circumstances happen and we can take advantage of those laws such as bankruptcy. But these are often indicators that help is needed when it comes to matters with regard to our credit management. Some of those that I mentioned have filed bankruptcy more than once. So it's not about I need all this money to be able to have a high credit score. It's not about that. It's about how we manage what we have. And if we manage what we have, lots of opportunities open to us. The higher that credit score rises. So it's not about money. We'll talk about that. You'll be able to see that as we move forward. Let's go to the next slide. Always keep that mirror in mind. Have you had your cake lately? Cake? Oh, we're talking about your credit score cake. What makes up your credit score? There are 5 main ingredients, and we'll use the analogy of a cake in order to explain this to you. These 5 main ingredients that comprises a credit score is number 1, payment history. 40% of your payment history comprises your credit score. Number 2, credit usage. Namely, how do you use your credit? Meaning, do you have a $1,000 credit card and you always keep that balance in the roughly $800, $900 range? There's so much debt there that you find you're only able to pay the minimum balance to carry over all that extra debt to the next month. Well, guess what? The credit card companies want you to do that on this revolving credit profile, because they can then charge you based upon a higher interest rate every month for the outstanding money that they lent you. On the other hand, if you're able to pay it off, credit usage, then you're going to find that your credit score is going to increase. So the recommendation is never allow yourself to carry a balance of more than 30% from month to month. Even better, 10% or 0. The lower that percentage beneath 30%, every single month you will see your credit score increase. Remember, we mentioned at the outset that you can go from a 500 credit score up to a 620 in less than a year. Well, by doing so, one of these elements, 21%, I should say 23% of your credit score is comprised of your credit usage. Also, 21% is your credit age. So the longer you have credit open, the more it benefits your credit score. It hedges against your credit score dropping. So as someone asked me this past week, what if I don't want to use this credit card anymore? Can I just cut it up and throw the credit card away? Close the account? Well, if you're not going to use that credit, we recommend keeping that account open because it's helping you. You might feel, well, if I have too much credit, I'm going to use more credit. Well, this is where the discipline comes in. If you can keep that account open and active and within those lower credit usage to limit ranges, then you will find that every single month your credit score will increase. Also having a mix of credit, 11%. That is perhaps a revolving credit or a term loan, or it could be a car loan or a mortgage. These are all different kinds of credit that's offered to you Having a mix of credit also contributes to 11% of how your credit score is compiled. And then recent credit. You want to be careful not to rush out there and try to apply for multiple cards at once. Guess what happens when you do that? Every time you submit and fill out another application for credit, regardless of the amount that you're applying for, it's going to, as we say, ding or impact your credit score. Somebody's going to pull your credit report. And when new creditors see that your credit report is being accessed by different creditors over and over and over again, that's a signal to them that you need credit to live. You're unable to live on perhaps income or benefits, and that puts you in a higher risk category. So as a result of that, your credit score goes down. Now, there's a caveat to that. If you're looking to buy a home, a house, these credit algorithms by Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion will allow you to have your credit report pulled multiple times, usually 3 or 4 times is about the limit, within a 30 to 45 day period, and it not affect your credit score. But if you're outside those limits, then you're going to begin to see your credit negatively impacted, because it signals to these creditors that you need credit to live. And credit really is not for those ones who need it the most. Truth of the matter is, credit scoring has been designed to benefit those ones who don't need it the most. But having credit and using credit, acquiring the right kind of debt, can be very good for you, such as if you were to apply for something that's an appreciating asset, like a home. Even if you have to pay a little bit more in interest for that, it's wise to go ahead and acquire that appreciating asset, because that house, which is one of the best appreciating assets out there, is going to appreciate, meaning the value of it's going to grow from year to year. That's the trend for real estate if you go back 100 years. And so it's good to own property and real estate. If you're presently living in public housing, one of the goals that you can have is that increasing your credit score, pulling your funds together, even working with other family members in order to do so that you can buy a house, because it's an appreciating asset. And as the years roll by, even if you had to pay a little bit more in interest to acquire that mortgage loan, you're going to far exceed the impact of the higher interest by the appreciating value of that home. Case in point, the first house that I purchased was a little more than 30 years ago. And I bought it for $160,000. Put 5% down to purchase the house. I actually had a car that I had to sell to get the deposit of $8,000 to be able to buy the house. But that same house today is worth about $1 million. So should I quibble and get upset about the fact that I started out paying about 7.25% interest? But what's interesting is here we are, we've cycled up and down in the economy and with inflation over the last 30 years many times, like a roller coaster. And you'll see people who are even on finance shows today, they're crying how upset they are because the interest rates are going up and inflation continues to go up. But do we realize that as inflation continues to increase by 3.5% each year, the value of your house or your appreciating assets is also increasing? So there's an offset, and a significant offset when it comes to real estate equity. So if you get nothing else out of this seminar, one of the goals I'd like to encourage you to do is to think about purchasing real estate. Be wise about it. Don't rush out and just buy the first thing you see, but think about putting that in your plan. And then if you need to continue these assistance and support, we're available to help you out, also to provide some ongoing support beyond this seminar. So at the bottom of the screen, you also see the credit score range. And this is the credit score range that's used by the 3 credit agencies or bureaus that we spoke about before. Exceptional credit is considered, it's actually between 800 to 850. That's a typo there on the screen. It should say 800 to 850. And then you see very good from 740 to 799. Good credit is considered 670 to 739. Fair from 580 to 669. And poor credit is considered from 300 up to 579. So the higher your credit score, the lower your interest rates and your ability to get the things in which you need. I'll just throw in one more additional benefit of having a high credit score. You can start a business with a high credit score. You can get the funding you need to start a business if you have a high credit score. 720 or above. There are finance agencies out there in some banks that will lend you $10,000, $50,000, even $100,000 if you have a 720 or above credit score. And some of these loans are not even secured. So again, think about that. It's so important to have a high credit score. Let's move along. And I'll say more. 6 easy credit score tips to raise your credit score. Number 1, keep your credit score usage below 30%. 2, try to pay off your credit card balances each month if you can. If you can't, keep that balance below 30% and make sure you make that minimum payment. We encourage you to try to make your payments at least 3 days before the due date, because that will ultimately, on a revolving credit arrangement, reduce your overall yield or interest rate. Don't open too many accounts at one time. That too signals to the agencies, the bureaus, that you're desperate and you just need credit in order to live. There are better ways to go about it. Then you can also bump your credit score by reporting non-traditional payments that you make on a monthly basis, such as your utility bill, electric payment, your cell phone bill. Pay those on time. There are agencies now, even Experian, that will allow those payments to contribute toward your credit score. Then we encourage you to access your credit report at least once a year so that you can see what's being reported. And if you find that there's anything on your credit report that's inaccurate, you can challenge that. The law provides for you to challenge it, and these credit agencies or bureaus cannot keep it on your credit report beyond 30 days if you can prove to them that there was an error that's being reported on your credit report. Let's move forward. We offer a host of free resources to offer you the support in which you will need in order to achieve your goals. And I mentioned pull your credit report once a year. The government has passed laws that require this agency, it's actually supported and funded by the government, go to annualcreditreport.com. Annualcreditreport.com. And there you can pull one tri-merge report annually. So that means each year you can pull one copy of your TransUnion report. Each year you can pull one copy of your Equifax report. Each year you can pull one copy of your Experian report. And what some of our associates do is they'll stagger it. So after 3 months or 4 months, they'll pull TransUnion. And then they'll allow another 4 months to pass by, and then they'll pull Experian. And then they'll allow another 4 months to pass by, and they'll pull Equifax. That way they have an ongoing update of what's being reported out there. And if you see anything that's wrong, immediately, or this agency also allows you to fill out a report right there on that website and to challenge whatever you see. And then they will provide you with a report update within 30 days. If you're successful, it'll come off your report and your credit score will automatically increase. Our not-for-profit company is also called Prosperity Nation. As mentioned at the outset, um, I am with FinLitX Global Corporation. We also have a not-for-profit corporation called Prosperity Nation. We provide ongoing free support. If you go to that website, prosperitynation.org, you'll see a link for credit score calculators, and you can click on that link, and there's a host of other calculators there also, and you can work with that to help you design your plan. Additionally, we provide free support through a social network. Also on that website, you can go to the Financial Literacy Leaders Club button. It's a free club that you can join, and you receive regular updates and support, and you can email in or text in questions and get ongoing support to help you become financially literate and achieve your high credit score. Well, there are a few tips that we wanted to share with you in connection with what to avoid as well. We talked about a few of them already, namely not allowing your balances to increase. Be very careful about who you allow to access your credit. We're living sort of in a world today, unprecedented. There's all kinds of ID theft out there. And we want to be very careful not to allow anyone access to this kind of private information. Sometimes when things like that occur, it can take months or sadly years to recover, from the problems associated with ID theft. You can even lock your credit reports with these agencies, meaning log in, they'll ask you the question, would you like to freeze or lock access to your credit? So that if you do that, and then someone has your information, your social and date of birth, and they try to open up accounts in your name for them, that'll be blocked. It's a great and important security measure to be able to do that. So what we'd like to do now is something that's really a lot of fun. And we're going to play a game. How would you like to play a game that's going to teach you some things? Our company, Prosperity Nation, also distributes learning systems that helps consumers in their own homes to become educated financially, to become financially literate by playing games with the entire family. And it's a lot of fun. So we're just going to sample it. We're actually going to give away some gifts, today as well. And we're going to ask you 5 different questions. And based upon how you answer these questions, we want you to answer them. It's all multiple choice. And in order to win the prize, we'll tell you what the prize is in just a moment. You want to select the correct answer. It's multiple choice, A, B, or C, and insert your answer and your name in the comments box. The first one to answer the question correctly wins a prize. Now, what's the prize? Well, again, we're talking about financial literacy, and these are trivia questions. So we're going to be giving away some trivia packs that deal with this matter of financial literacy. The first trivia pack that we're going to be giving away is called Financial Literacy. It's a package of some 75 financial literacy questions and 25 bonus questions. That is very exciting. If you take a look at our Prosperity Nation #1 Instagram page, you're going to see youth, children, and adults coming together as families playing the Get on the Road to Prosperity learning system. And it's very educational. It's changing people's lives. So we're going to play a little bit right now and see how literate you are financially. So our first question, and I have the answers over here. Be ready to enter your name and the multiple choice answer to the question in the comments box. Taylor, who works there with the Chicago Housing Authority, is monitoring and writing down this information by name and who is the first one to get the answer correct. Then she's going to transmit that back to us. We'll contact you and we'll arrange to send you your prize if you win. But I'll say something to you a little bit later on. Everybody's going to be a winner because everybody's going to get something today. Our first question is the acronym FICO, most commonly associated with credit scores, stands for A, Fair Isaac Corporation, B, Financial Income Credit Organization, or C, Fish and Chip Order. Who's the first one to come up with the correct answer? Put your name and the correct multiple choice answer. Okay. That was fun, wasn't it? Okay. Now we're going to move to our next question. Okay, I tell you what, let's go back. Let's go back. Okay, let's go back. What I've got to do is give you the correct answer. I'll give you just another few minutes, or sorry, a few seconds to deal with this question. I want to say it one more time. The acronym FICO, most commonly associated with credit scores, stands for A, Fair Isaac Corporation, B, Financial Income Credit Organization, or C, Fish and Chip Order. I really want to know who's going to put Fish and Chip Order down there. Okay, the correct answer is A, Fair Isaac Corporation. FICO is a company that helps lenders make fast credit risk decisions on whether you may qualify for a credit card or loan. Okay, let's move to our next question. What is more likely to affect your credit score? A, getting married, or B, having an overdue library book? What is more likely to affect your credit score? A, getting married, or B, having an overdue library book? Give you a moment to think about that one. Enter your answer, your name, and whether you think it's A or B in the comment section. And now we're going to give you the correct answer. The correct answer is B, having an overdue library book. Why? Well, having an overdue library book may result in collection efforts by the library, or even a non-payment judgment on your credit report. Hey, I guess some libraries out there can get aggressive. But take the books back. Take the books back. Don't fear getting married. Your spouse's credit report does not mingle with yours. Only does it when you co-sign with your spouse on credit, and then one fails to pay the bill, or if the other bill just doesn't get paid, it can impact both of your credit reports. Now, there are some situations where, in the case of a divorce, and we're not encouraging that, but petitions can be filed to try to separate one from the character and actions of the other. But we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is very simply getting married. Does it impact your credit? No. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. But take the books back to the library and help preserve the quality of your credit score. Let's go to our next question. Okay. You should always close credit card accounts you no longer use. You should no longer, or rather, always close credit card accounts you no longer use. True, A is true, or B false. What do you think? Some say, well, I don't use this credit and I don't trust myself, having this credit card around anymore, this account open. I'm just going to shut it down. Well, if you do so, then beware, because the correct answer is B. It's false. B. Closing a credit card account may have the effect of decreasing your length of credit history and may be viewed as a negative on your credit report. Remember, one of the algorithms that's measured is how long you have had credit open, so that if you have a credit account that's open for 10 years, it shows that you were trusted with credit for 10 years. If you shut that account down and the only ones that you have remaining that are open have only been open for 6 months, then it completely changes the profile of your credit model, and your credit score is going to go down. So build up the trust not to use credit if that's the reason why you want to shut an account down. But the longer you keep these accounts open, the better. So I hope you've answered that question correctly, and the first one that does so is going to receive that reward. Let's go to our next question. Okay. What will boost your credit score the most? A, pay on time, keep credit card balances low. B, limit new credit, keep old accounts open. Or C, sweet talk the credit card company, customer service department. Well, which one? What will boost your credit score the most? A, pay on time, keep the credit card balances low. B, limit credit card and keep old accounts open. Or C, sweet talk the credit card company, customer service department. Well, moment to answer that. First one in gets a prize. And the correct answer is A. Your credit score will increase fastest if you pay your bills on time and keep your credit card balances below 30%, 25%, 10% paid off in full. That's what we would recommend if you're able to do that, of your credit card limit. So that's A. Your credit scores will increase fastest, boost the most. Now, B, this is an interesting question, is a good practice also to limit new credit and keep old accounts open. That's fine. You want to do that too. But A, remember the question is boost your credit card or score the most. So the focus is how can you increase your credit score fastest? Well, comparing one against the other, paying your bills on time and keeping balances low will do that. I've seen consumers increase their credit score by as much as 4 to 8 points every single month by following this practice, particularly by paying it off completely and then going into the next month. Now, if you need to use that credit the following month again for some important reasons, that's okay. But before the end of the month, pay it down, pay it off. Use it so that when they calculate at the end of that 30-day period, and remember, credit agencies have different cycles. Some may report on the 5th of the month, others report on the 15th, others the 20th. So don't get caught that way. Call up your creditor and find out, when do you report to the credit agency? And then you can manage it that way to make sure that your bills are paid off or down below that 30% threshold when that day arrives. If a couple of days later you want to use it again, bring it up above that 30% ratio, it's okay. It's not going to impact your credit. But just keep in mind the importance of paying it down. Let's move to our next question, which I think is also our final question. In our game series seminar portion. Now, this is an interesting question because it doesn't directly relate to your credit score, but it relates to the single biggest asset that most of us ever will purchase. So if it's your goal to buy a house, then you need to know something about mortgages. And this is an important question. And I'm going to preface it by saying we have mortgage brokers. We have had attorneys, people that are pretty sophisticated in finance, play the Get on the Road to Prosperity learning system. And this question appears as one of the 75 financial literacy questions in that game. And it stumps most people. But it's a good measure of how much do you know about house financing and credit scores and mortgages. So here's the question. Who gives a mortgage? Who gives a mortgage? Think about that. Is it A, the lender? Is it B, the seller? Is it C, the buyer? Or is it D, the mortgage company? Who gives a mortgage? Think about it for a moment. Is it the lender that gives a mortgage? Is it the seller who gives a mortgage? Is it the buyer who gives a mortgage? Is it the mortgage company? A, B, C, or D? Please insert your name and the letter associated with your answer. Because those who get this answer correct and who is the first one to get the correct answer is going to receive a prize worth $200. We're not playing. This is real. You're going to get this learning system called Get on the Road to Prosperity that can be played with your entire family and that teaches financial literacy through gamification. Very exciting, very fun, a lot of fun. So again, that question, I'm going to repeat it because it's such an important question. Who gives a mortgage? Is it A, the lender, B, the seller, C, the buyer, or D, the mortgage company? Okay, I'll now give the answer because I'm pretty sure somebody's come up with the right answer by now. The correct answer is, drum roll, the buyer, C. What? I thought when you want a mortgage, you call up a mortgage company, the lender. You apply for a loan. Well, no, that's not true. When you want a loan, you contact the bank. So let's explain really what we're talking about here. Okay. Here's the example, the illustration, the scenario. You want to buy a $400,000 house. Again, that's on your vision board. That's what you're focusing on. That's part of your plan. You want to buy a $400,000 house, but you don't have $400,000. You don't have it. You look at your bank account, you have only enough for a deposit toward the purchase of that house. Maybe it's 10,000, maybe it's 20,000. And you have some closing fees tucked away also, but that's all you have. Well, what do? You go out and you find the house, you make an offer, the seller of that house agrees to accept your offer, and the very first thing you want to do, if you haven't already done so, is you contact a bank, a mortgage lender. And this lender will pull your credit. Again, credit score is important. They will check your income, verify it, and they'll see you've been responsible in paying your bills. You are qualified for us to lend you $400,000 so that you can purchase that house. Ah, but guess what? That lender doesn't know who you are. They have a credit report that gives them a snapshot of how you've been paying your bills, but they don't know about all the other things that make you you, and to the point where they're willing to trust giving you $400,000 or so. That's just the reality of banking. So what does that bank want to do? They want to put a lien on your house. They want to put a lien on your house so that if for any reason, despite your payment history being perfect, you fall behind, and usually it's fall behind 3 payments, they can come after that house and file what's called a lis pendens in court that initiates a foreclosure action. Now, that's called a lien. But when you're a homeowner, you know nobody has the right to just place a lien on your house unless you authorize them to do so, unless you give them the right to place a lien on your house. So in exchange for you getting the $400,000 to give to the seller so that you can get the keys to that house at the closing, the bank wants you to sign a document. And that document is called the mortgage or security document. When you sign that right over to the bank to place a lien on your house, you, the buyer, give the bank a mortgage. Because the legal definition of a mortgage is just that, to extend the right to place a lien on your asset or your property. Now, a lot of us get that word confused because it's thrown around in the finance housing industry too much. Oh, I just got a mortgage. I got a mortgage. I got a mortgage. You didn't get a mortgage. You got a loan, an IOU. You got money that you now have to pay back. But you gave the bank the right to place a lien in exchange or security interest in your house in exchange for the money. So how many of you got that question correctly answered? I'm eager to know how many of you actually got that one right. Because if you did, you're far ahead of so many of us in understanding the importance and the value of managing your credit properly, building up a high credit score, and moving along to success. So we're going to open it up for question and answers now. If you have any questions to anything that we've talked about or about credit scores in general, we're going to take some credit questions and we're going to try our best to answer them. We have about maybe 10 minutes to ascertain and to deal with this part of our seminar. Are there any questions that we've received or that you have? Now's the time to add them to your content section. You can type them right in. And Taylor, you can tell us whether or not we've received any questions throughout the course of this seminar.
Hey, thank you so much, Mr. Samuels. Yes, we do have some questions coming in, so I'll just go ahead and dive right in here.
Great.
I do have a question regarding credit disputes. So where do those need to be filed? Is that directly with FICO? What is the first step in the dispute process? How do you start that off?
Great. Very, very good question. What you want to do is pull a copy of your credit report by going to annualcreditreport.com. When you see that dispute, right there inside that login, on that website, whether it's TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian, they provide you with a button that you can click on to dispute any aspect of anything you see on that credit report. They could have something like your name misspelled, or your address, or you never worked at that company, or you never had that account, or you paid that bill on time, whatever it might be. you can enter that dispute in and on that website, Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian, and put a .com behind those words. They'll take you right to those websites. And then what will happen is the law requires that they investigate it and respond to you within 30 days. If they fail to prove the accuracy of what's reported, it must come off your credit report immediately. And if you can provide them with as much evidence as possible, if you have supporting documents, you can upload those also to help them along with their investigation. I hope that answered your question.
Right, thank you. I have another question here regarding just the general time frame for raising your credit score. So if someone's looking to bring it up maybe 150 points, how long do you think that would take to bring it up to that level?
That all depends on what's in and being reported on your credit report. I've seen it happen that within a period of 90 days to 120 days, you can significantly rocket up your credit score to as much as 100 points, 150 points. But it all depends upon what's on your credit report now. If there are elements that are in your credit report that is currently holding your credit score down, by adding the appropriate corrections or elements, such as a new account you've added to your credit report that has a long credit history. Some will even see a significant boost by adding an authorized user relationship into your credit profile. For example, there are some parents that will bring their children onto their credit report as an authorized user. They don't have the opportunity to actually use the credit, but if they sign on board to your account as an authorized user, then the following month your account will reflect that new authorization. And if you had, let's say, for example, a 5-year credit history of perfect on-time payments, now reporting to and on your credit report instantly, you're going to get the benefit of that. So that we often say to our high school graduates, and this is that time of year that a lot of high schools are coming out of school, graduating, and they want to kind of get started building up their own credit profile. Parents often will add them to their credit reports, assuming they have good credit and have been responsible in how they managed it. They add their children, and then instantly that child has a new credit score. And that will remain with them while they boost and build their own credit profile. We're not saying just rely upon your parents for the rest of your life. No. Begin starting out with smaller credit accounts, and you might even consider prepaid credit profiles. So there are cards that report to the credit agencies every month that are secured cards. So you deposit $200, $500, $1,000, whatever you have onto that card, and it's just like having a credit card. Those three bureaus will report, or those credit agencies will report to the bureaus that you have credit. They don't know the difference if it's secured or not secured. And then just pay those bills on time and follow these recommendations we've given you today. And you're going to find that even when your parents or that authorized user account comes off, you maintain a good and higher credit score. I hope that answered your question.
Right, thank you, Mr. Samuels. Do have another question here just regarding student loans and how that affects credit score. Can you speak on that and what people should look out for, people who have loans should look out for when it comes to how the credit score is impacted?
Big topic today, big topic. We can have a long conversation about the educational finance system, what have you. But we won't, not now. But we will talk about how a student loan can impact your credit score. A student loan is just like any other credit account that you've been granted. So that once that a balance of your student loan appears on your credit report, the first thing it's going to do is boost your credit score. Because the first interpretation the credit bureaus receive is you've been holistic and responsible enough to be given granted credit. So it's going to boost your credit score. But then thereafter, they're going to look for payment history. So if you fail to make those payments on a monthly basis, it's going to begin to impact your credit in a negative way. Now, that's been in the headlines a lot in the United States over the last few years because the government stepped in earlier around COVID-19 and they granted freezes, on education loans so that they could not report, so that students didn't have to make those payments and be negatively impacted if their employment was impacted negatively and all that. But that moratorium ended about a year and a half ago, if my memory serves me correctly. And the powers that be have been trying to figure that whole thing out so that I think now in the present, they've been offering um, uh, certain students, depending upon which agency of the government provided the loans, or if it was a private agency, whether they were fully disclosed properly. There's a few reasons why they decided to eliminate some of those debts entirely. But the many of us who still have education loans and they've been reactivated for payment and collection have to take that seriously. Student loans cannot be wiped out in bankruptcy. You can't file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and expect to discharge a student loan. If it's government backed for your education, at some point it has to be paid. Now, you could always contact the agency that provide this student loan and negotiate a different payment or even a temporary freeze, but that's something you have to be proactive about. Get ahead of it before it begins to impact your credit report. I hope that's helpful, but it's such an important topic today.
Right, thank you. Still have some questions coming in. Unfortunately, some of our attendees have experienced identity theft and are wondering, how can they avoid that again? Are there any red flags to look out for to prevent this from happening again?
Absolutely, yeah. First thing I would ask you to do is put a freeze on your credit report. So go into TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian and register to have your report frozen. What that means is if anyone tries to apply for a loan using your credit profile, your social, date of birth, etc., it'll automatically red flag it. You'll receive a notice. You'll get an email or a text message, however you decide to receive that notification. And that thief won't be able to use your profile. Now, there's a lot of this going around today, and many of us have been impacted in this negative way. So if you are one that has had your profile stolen, ID theft, you immediately want to report that to the credit agency and provide them with some documentation to show that it wasn't you that applied for that loan or did whatever was happening with that loan. Make sure you provide them with some documentation. And then by law, that has to come off of your credit report. But that's what we would ask you to follow. Whatever you enroll in, whether it's a website, service, online, try to stick to companies that require to log in with a two-factor authentication so that no one can as easily log in and gain access to your private information. It's much harder to do so when there's two-factor authentication associated with your logins and your passwords. Also, change your passwords regularly. Don't get used to using the same password so that somebody can figure it out and log in and get to the banking information or the other personal information and begin to pretend to be you. Sadly, we live in that world today where we have to be always cautious about who we're dealing with, business-wise, consumer-wise, etc. Be conscious of that. Okay. Any other questions we can discuss?
I do have a kind of a, to piggyback off the last question. So say if you do put a freeze on your credit, is it possible to still make payments and build up your credit score in the meantime while there's a freeze on your credit?
Oh, yeah. What's frozen is not your ability to use your credit accounts. You can still use your accounts. We're not asking you, it's not recommended to freeze your actual accounts, but to contact the 3 credit bureaus that your accounts report to. That system will continue to flow. They'll continue sending reports to Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian of how you're using your credit. But the freeze is at the bureau level, so that if anybody tries to apply for something, and in order to get that data for the approval, they have to first pull your credit report. Nobody will be able to pull your credit report if you put a freeze on it. So that's what is very important to do. Very important. And again, change your passwords and things of that sort so that nobody can even gain access to it. Did I cover that aspect of your question this time? I hope so.
I will let you know if they comment back.
Okay, great.
Perfect. Let's see here. I have some questions regarding making sure utility bills are counted to your credit. Do you know how to check to see if utility bills are currently being counted toward that? And then if they're not being counted, what can people do to make sure those payments are being counted toward your overall credit score?
Very good. Very good. The answer to that is, once again, go to the credit bureaus. Experian is one of the 3 credit bureaus. The other 2 is TransUnion and Equifax.com. They offer that provision on their websites. So don't go to your utility company and say, why aren't you reporting my payments, to these agencies? It has to start with you applying for that provision at the bureau level. So simply go to transunion.com or Experian.com or Equifax.com, and you'll see a button there or a section there where it's going to explain this wonderful provision to you. Would you like to add a utility bill or a cell phone bill to your profile? And then they'll ask you to upload or even select. They have a drop-down box with the utility, companies or the cell phone companies, and you can select or add other, to it, and then they will reach out to and connect with them and begin to draw in your payment history on a monthly basis. So that's where you want to start, by going to those 3 websites and asking them to do so. And oftentimes, if you just go to one, all 3 will pick it up. But I would even recommend go to each of them individually and apply for that service. And then usually it takes about 30 days. They will begin pulling your credit history, and that will become another positive credit account that you have. But go to those agencies directly, and you can sign up for that.
Right, thank you so much. I know we're coming up on time here, so we'll take one more question.
Okay.
Seeing some regarding collections. So say, you've already paid the debt. Is there a way to have that removed from your credit report?
Absolutely. And I'm happy that you asked that question, because there's a few different angles as to why this question is very important. So you were in collection at one point, and you paid that debt. and yet perhaps the debt is still being reported on your credit report because you might have paid it to a third-party collection agency. And not always do they have a relationship with Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian. And so it could continue to linger there. This is why we need to be proactive and pull out reports periodically so that we can see what's being reported. Well, when you get your report and you see that collection agent or that account is still open, but you've paid it, that's one of those things you want to dispute right there on those credit agency or bureau websites. You have proof of the payment. Well, upload that proof. It could be a receipt for the payment. It could be a following statement that shows that the payment was made. Help them resolve it for you by giving them the proof. That way, when they contact, because they have 30 days to contact that original creditor and prove that it has been paid off, they will have the proof, the receipt in their hand. Because, not all the agencies, not all the retailers or creditors, and certainly not the collection law firms, they're not that good. They don't keep good records. What they want is to get the payment. And so it's up to us as responsible, educated consumers to protect ourselves in this respect. But connected to that, I want to just mention how this whole thing works. You see, when you have a credit account with, let's say it's Macy's, and you begin to fall behind in those payments, guess what Macy's is going to do? Macy's is going to sell your account to a third-party collection agency. And they may sell it for 10% on the dollar. You owe them $100, they may sell it to that third-party agency for $10. Believing that they're transferring the rights to that collection to that third-party collection agent. And there are thousands of agencies that will buy that debt. And then you suddenly get a letter in the mail saying you owe and must make the payment to them. Well, I'm here to tell you that there are laws that protect consumers against this kind of second and third party collection process. Consumer laws, it varies by state to state, so check the state that you're in, Illinois, and see the most recent laws in this respect. But most states disallow third-party agencies to represent themselves as the original creditor. So that collection letter that you might have received might not have even come from a legal agency that has the rights to collect that debt. But there are two other angles to this also. When that debt is sold to that third-party agency, the original creditor, in our illustration Macy's, takes a charge off of that debt. And what does that mean? The next time they have to file their taxes, they accumulate all the debt that they couldn't collect, and they take a discount off of their taxes. So they get paid, but on the back end through reduced taxes. There's laws that say they can't get double paid. So that immediately eliminates the right of that collection agent to collect it from you. So whenever you get one of those collection letters, the first thing you should do is contact in writing that collection agency and ask them to produce the original credit agreement. Because legally, you're only liable to pay that debt to the owner of the original credit agreement. Now, check your own laws. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving you legal advice. But what I will say is that's an issue, a big issue, that hundreds of thousands of people face every single month. So be wise. Let's get ourselves educated here as to what our legal rights are That's another way to protect ourselves as far as our credit, profiles are concerned. And then that collection agent has to be able to prove to you that they have the right to collect. Now, if you do decide to settle with a collection agent, it's best in your negotiations with them is don't roll over and say, oh, okay, I'll give you the full amount. Or whatever offer they make to you, accept that offer right away. You owed 1,000, they say, give me 800, and we'll call it a day. 700, we'll call it a day. No, no, no. They bought that debt for $100, $50, $10. If you want to settle with them, then understand your legal rights and your leverage. Go back to them and say, no, I'll give you $200 for it right now, or 300, whatever you have that you can negotiate in order to get them to agree to that lower amount. You can even do installment payments. They have to put this new agreement in writing that as soon as you make that last installment payment over 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, then they will give you a satisfaction letter. And it's important that that satisfaction letter state paid as agreed. Even if you were behind in paying Macy's, when you're now negotiating with that collection agency and they want your money to pay it off, make sure they put inside that sign-off letter, paid as agreed. In that way, that paid as agreed letter can now go to TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. You send it to them, you upload it, again, that dispute area on their website, and then they will see, this account that had 30-day late, 60-day late, 90-day late, or charge off, it's inaccurate because now they just proved to me through a letter signed by an attorney that represented that the account was paid as agreed. You have that right, that provision available to you, and that will immediately help to clean up your credit and raise your credit score. And isn't that the goal? Very good. So I want to thank everybody. Those were wonderful questions, and I'm sure that even if your question wasn't discussed and answered, you benefited from the answers to the other questions. And we would ask you, if you have any questions that you'd like some additional information on, you can reach us. And you can reach us on our email. Go to AIM, A-I-M, at prosperitynation.org. AIM at prosperitynation.org. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have and provide you with additional background information on that. But there's one more thing we want to do before we close out. Well, we talked about gifts and all that, so make sure of those 5 that answered the questions and were the first to do so, that we get your name in the comments box, and Taylor can pick that up and get that over to us, and how we can reach you so that we can arrange to talk with you and get your address so that we can send you your gift. But in addition to that, everybody's a winner. Everyone's a winner, because we have something for each of you in the form of an ebook download on our website. It's free, and it's entitled Credit Score Management Success. And it's going to review with you virtually everything that we've talked about here today and more. So everybody's a winner today. So please go to our website, this is prosperitynation.org. The email address is aim@prosperitynation.org. It's AIM. But the website is prosperitynation.org. Click on the free ebook download, and then you can just copy that directly to your hard drive and take your time. It's like 40 pages. It's a huge publication, charts, graphs, illustrations, links, and all that. That will really help you. It's all free. We want to provide you with all the support we can to be successful and to achieve your goals. We are so honored and privileged to be here. Taylor, I just want to thank you again for inviting me to be on this webinar today. What a privilege it is to work with the Chicago Housing Authority and to work with our family and friends in your region. And we hope we'll have an opportunity to come back at some point and talk about financial literacy, credit score based, or in a broader capacity in the days ahead. But I thank Taylor once again, the Chicago Housing Authority, along with all of you who responded to the invitation and registered and enjoyed, I hope enjoyed our seminar today, got some positive benefit from it. And we look forward to seeing you down the road as you pave your way down the road to prosperity in achieving the highest possible credit score. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samuels. Really appreciate you taking the time to share this information again. It's so important, so it means a lot to us. I want to let our attendees know that you will receive a recording of today's session. I know it's a lot of information, but later today you'll receive an email that has a link to the recording, and also in that email you'll receive a survey link as well, just asking you to provide feedback for today's session and feedback for future sessions as well. If there are any topics you want to see, please let us know. We really appreciate it. All right, thank you so much, everyone. We hope you found this session to be helpful. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.